when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Every single person that you or I has ever known is dead!
A widespread investigation of reports from funeral homes, morgues, and hospitals has concluded that the unburied dead are coming back to life and seeking human victims.
Zombies go back a ways. You can see them in, as characters in literature as early as the beginning of the 20th century. The legend sort of came out of the Caribbean, and it was a kind of zombie that was controlled by some sort of dark wizard. And that's very different from the notion of the zombie that we have today, which is often derived from some scientific accident. Or perhaps some kind of mass event, an asteroid or something like that.
We're a student organization registered on Tech Campus. We actually go by T2HVZ moderators, which is the controlling group of the organization, about 10 members. What we do is every semester we put on the Humans vs. Zombies game on campus. We have to go to grounds use, get all this permission and approval forms so that we can carry Nerf guns around on campus and run and hit people in the back.
Mike Memlock, I'm a sophomore engineering major from Lubbock. This is the final mission of HVZ this week. We have two different teams, the humans and the zombies. Both teams are competing to get their particular objectives to Urbanovsky Park. I'm not playing. Currently, the humans are moving towards Urbanovsky Park from the biology building. The zombies are on the other end of campus also heading to Urbanovsky. So right now it's a race to see who can get there first. Each team had 3 places to go to. However, the humans were doing particularly bad, so they got to skip their third one and go straight to Urbanovsky. The two teams are going to compete to color their version of the exact same item in as little time as possible. The team that completes theirs first has, quote-unquote, changed the storyline of the comic, and therefore wins the game. Start with one special person who can hide as a human, and everyone else is a human. The goal of the disguised zombie, or OZ, is to collect as many humans as possible without being found out. Once he's found out on Facebook, he becomes just like a regular zombie. But until then, he can be disguised and tag human players, and while they're none the wiser. Well, what we have is that we have all players are controlled. Everyone has to register with one of the moderators. If someone doesn't register, they're non-playing. We have a problem with this on Tech Campus where a lot of non-playing people dress up as zombies. So whenever one of the non-playing zombies attacks one of our players and tags them, we have to go in and fix everything. So we consider that an assault because it's not actually a playing character.
People will get really into it, like they take it as their only chance to experience the zombie apocalypse, so they'll get their Nerf guns and just shoot anything that moves, and they'll shoot non-players sometimes when they get really into it. Or we have some people that try and run away and run straight into cars and traffic, but that doesn't happen very often. That's only and then we are we get mobs of people just running around in doorways, and people are trying to get to class. It's not that big a deal, but some people don't really like the whole mob mentality of the game. I am a moderator in the Humans vs. Zombies organization, and we put on the Humans vs. Zombies game each year. The moderators kind of iron out the story, and they make sure everything goes to plan and make sure that the university allows us to play each year. We have to go and ask permission and everything like that. Well, the 9 of us as a committee, we decided that we needed to become an organization this year so that the game can continue to be played on campus. And so we had to go and meet with the person in charge of the grounds committee and talk about how we would become an organization. And then we had to go through a lot of paperwork and find someone to sponsor us, which was a little bit difficult because not everyone likes our game. But after that, we just had to like sign off on our officer positions, which was kind of weird because we're usually just a collective group. And then, yeah, now we're in our organization. We meet like once a week, every week until the game starts. And at the meetings, we kind of go over what things happened well last game and what rules need to be changed, like stun timers and things like that. It's a really complicated process. And then we come up with a storyline each semester, like how the zombie outbreak got started and where it's going, and like everything from there. We have characters, non-player characters, that will go through and be like, this year I was a comic book writer and I wrote a comic that made zombies come to life, and then they wanted to destroy my comic book, so I became evil and tried to kill the humans, and so that's how the game ended, was I got killed. So we come up with different storylines every semester, and it can be anything from like the military or like there was a virus. It's pretty creative, actually.
At the start of the game, there's one OZ and all the rest of the players are zombies. The OZ can hide as a human until he gets found out on Facebook. When he gets found out on Facebook, he's a regular zombie. His job is to go around and get as many humans as possible before he gets found out, so that the zombie population gets started.
The first-person shooter is a form of entertainment that lots of people like me in my business, media critics, have spent a lot of time wringing their hands over. Probably the best example being Columbine. Klebold and Harris, of course, were regarded as avid gamers, particularly with first-person shooters, and the case was made that made it easier for them to shoot down their classmates. You know, I don't know that that's necessarily true, but it certainly does say something about a consuming public where those kinds of games are increasingly and steadily popular.
The first semester we did this, we weren't allowed to use the Nerf guns because they're guns, and the cops didn't like that, so we had to use socks. From there, they've kind of accepted guns, but there are a lot of people that want to paint their guns to look like real guns, but that's not allowed on campus, and they tell us, you know, if there's a cop around, set down the gun, put your hands up. You know, it's very like, be super careful because we are playing with guns essentially, even though they're just Nerf bullets. It can be misconstrued.
First of all, this is just the belt. It's a workman's belt I found at my grandfather's workshop. I figured it'd be good for carrying all my stuff. The socks are basically like the grenades of Human vs. Zombies. You throw them, and if they hit, then zombies tagged.
Yeah, this is a Stampede. It's a fully automatic Nerf gun. There's about a 1 second delay between each shot.
Yeah, I just have them wrapped around a belt clip.
And it uses 3D batteries, so.
In the pouches I have extra clips.
You can crank it up to about half a second between each shot, but you'll more likely melt the gun.
A smaller, just a basic, I want to surprise someone.
This is called a barricade. It's a semi-automatic. You just turn it on. It's still battery powered as well.
And then I have a Maverick.
And my last backup weapon, trusty old Maverick.
I do think that there's something, whether people who play Humans versus Zombies would sort of be cognizant of it or not, I do think that there's something instructive about the process. There's something sort of enlightening even about the way not just, you know, the zombie plague, but anything can sort of spread and become overcoming and overwhelming, and probably the desire to sort of experience that comes from the same place that the desire comes from to watch these films, which is they're both cathartic experiences, essentially. And also, I mean, I think probably, you know, ultimately it's just kind of fun to run around with guns and shoot them at people, and you know, there's it's play, you know, and how often do we really get a chance to play anymore?
It's just something new to do. I played last semester, and it breaks up the monotony of having to go to classes. And some people like, get really stressed over tests, and there's something to think about other than, oh no, I had this horrible math test in my Cal 3. So instead of having to worry about that for like maybe 5 minutes when you're going to a different class, you're having a little fun.
It has. I've made a lot of friends, and like I've kept up friendships. My boyfriend actually right now I met during this game. It's really interesting though, because it's kind of bringing everyone together in one, like they have a common thing. These are people that I would never have talked to in a million years. But since we're playing this game together, we can, and like we'll be hunting zombies, we'll be hunting, and just go up to people that I've never met before and be like, hey, what's happening? Let's kill people. It's interesting. I like it. It's very social. It's one reason why I wanted to become a moderator for it.
As a zombie, if you can't find a bunch of other zombies to do like a horde, kind of just mob people, you have to be kind of sneaky about it. Like, if you see a human and they don't notice you, you kind of just wait for them to pass by, then you follow them. I almost got 2 guys doing that. I got one of them, but the other guy dodged, so.
And the thing about zombies, I think, is that they're sort of vessels into which we can pour any number of anxieties. And so that's why you see zombie films, really starting with Romero's Night of the Living Dead in 1968, meaning different things at different times. And even before zombies, we had the classic sci-fi films of the late 1940s, early 50s, into the 60s that responded in large measure to the atomic age, where they weren't necessarily called zombies, but we had other sort of automaton type characters, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, for example. And in that case, what was on people's minds and what was scaring people was communism. So those body snatchers and the sort of blank stares and the shuffling feet and the complete lack of individuality stood in for, at that time, a very real threat in people's minds, in society. Later on, Romero really sort of perfected the art of the zombie film, and many of he's got a whole series of them, as you probably know, and in each case, you could make an argument that they sort of stand in for something different. In Night of the Living Dead in 1968, we're talking about probably the flashpoint year of the civil rights movement, Vietnam, etc. In large measure, the zombies stand in for the sort of conservative, mainstream adult culture that let a lot of these sort of horrible things happen, and that we're prosecuting in some measure a campaign against the youth movement, etc. Later on, with I believe it's Romero's 3rd film, Day of the Dead, all of a sudden we're in a shopping mall. And so zombies stand in for consumer culture. And then we sort of get into the post-Romero era, if you like, where we move into a couple of things. One is sort of parody and loving satire. So we have the Shaun of the Deads and the Zombielands, which utilize this back catalog of material that most of us are familiar with to say something funny and kind of critique or poke fun at, but very lovingly and very reverently that genre. And on the other hand, we have sort of the speeding up and the creation of a more menacing type of zombie character with a film like 28 Days Later, and that's a very different imagining of what a zombie can be, although it basically fits the same parameter that goes all the way back to Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It doesn't think, it doesn't feel, it can't be killed, and in this case, one could argue that the reason that film resonates is because of some of the things that we are concerned about in the 21st century, the spread of communicable disease, terrorism. An interesting thing about zombies is that if you look at the history of the sort of modern history of zombie films, and you take Romero's Night of the Living Dead in '68 as the sort of the first one, from 1968 to 2001, there's only a smattering of zombie films. From 2001, from September 11th onward, there are more zombie films that have been produced than there were in the entire, 30 years leading up to from Romero's film in '68. So clearly there's something about the post 9/11 era that, that at least people are making movies feel is resonant for us as an audience. And of course we see it in literature with the Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, World War Z, which is coming out as a Brad Pitt film, I think next year, which is a great book. If you haven't read it, it's pretty awesome. And that's sort of a first-person account, a series of interviews that are done with people after the zombie apocalypse is over, the zombie war. And you know, I think ultimately we're all just feeling a little, at least in the West, a little vulnerable these days. I think a lot of things that were taken for granted in the 1970s and 80s and 90s, security, peace, a relative sort of prominence in the world, economically, politically, etc. All those things, you know, we're not quite as sure about what tomorrow is going to bring. And so I think that that's in large measure why these films are drawing audiences. You know, I think that for me, the best zombie narratives are not scary so much as they are deeply affecting and emotional. Because, you know, they ask some really scary questions about, you know, as my colleague Allison Whitney pointed out when we were screening Night of the Living Dead, once that line between living and dead is erased, everything else becomes, you know, the meaning of everything else is thrown into flux, because that is the one baseline that we have as human beings. If we don't have that to sort of work off of, then it's like gravity goes away, right, in terms of what things mean. So I think that there's something about that erasure or that blurring of that line between life and death that we are going to always find interesting inherently as human beings, because we're finite, you know, and we're always interested in exploring our finitude and how we might become infinite. But the thing about zombies in particular is the mode of transmission, the biting, and the idea that if you get caught by the zombies, you don't just simply die. You become one of them, and if you're, let's say you're on The Walking Dead, the AMC show, you know, you're traveling with family or loved ones, and the thing that really gets you about these zombie narratives is when, you know, a son or a daughter or a wife is infected, and, you know, that person, you know, 2 seconds ago was you would have died for them, and now you have to blow their brains out. You know, that's some pretty that's pretty tough. That's some pretty cathartic emotional content, and for one reason or another, we are interested in it, and I think that is that's what the good zombie movies that aren't just about brains and blood and sort of, you know, scaring you. They're making you consider, you know, this wild possibility, and you have to really suspend disbelief. But once you do, that's the stuff that really gets you and kind of, you know, makes you think.
I think it's because it's like an adventure. It's a game. Like for us, it's a game, and it's something different from the ordinary. Like I like zombies because of like the dark connotations with them. They're more creepy than just like monsters, because they're your friends and family, like people you love, and it's just a different kind of reality, I think, that people like to experience. It's kind of like video games, but this could actually happen. There's science that kind of could see it going that way, and so you can actually prepare for it and be ready for the zombie apocalypse. Kind of not really how you could with World of Warcraft or something. Yeah.
But clearly a major trope within those games is the undead or the zombie, and you know, I think that probably has something to do with the emergence of humans versus zombies on campus. You know, it's sort of a role-playing game in the same mold as, you know, from my era, Dungeons and Dragons, or you know, others. It's a spatialization, a realizing in if you like real life of, you know, these sort of ludic narratives that are somewhere in between watching and participating. And so it's sort of just a further embodiment of what you would do in, I don't know, what, Doom, or I don't even know which games are zombie games.
Well, I really liked being a human, being able to shoot people with Nerf guns. That's pretty fun. But as a zombie, you've got the whole, if a human sees you, they have to run away, basically. Because if you tag them, they're down. If they tag you with a Nerf dart, then you're only down for 10 minutes. So I guess just the whole, just kind of everything about it. I don't really have any one thing that was the best part, though the missions were pretty awesome.
Humans vs. Zombies is extremely fun. It's the best way to get from point A to point B on campus without having to, you know, just walk. You know, you actually have to, you know, look out for zombies or hunt down humans in order to be successful during the week. Basically, it's a great way during campus, during your regular school day, to have a lot of fun. And we put on events in the evenings. Registration is open to anyone. You don't have to be a tech student. You can be a tech faculty. You can be a tech staff member. We don't care. As long as you are related with tech somehow, we want you to play. And we'll be having another game in spring 2012. Dates to be announced later.
Bitches don't know about the Horn of Gondor!
What? Can you do that again?